Facebook will show you ads even if you don't have a Facebook account. Google's VR headset is still just a daydream. And everything you've ever wanted to know about Overwatch, and some stuff you might not have ever wanted to know about Overwatch. All that and a lot more coming up on Tech News Today.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today, episode 1523, recorded Friday, May 27th, 2016. This episode of Tech News Today is brought to you by ZipRecruiter. Are you hiring with ZipRecruiter.com? You can post to 100-plus job sites, including social networks, all with a single click. Screen, rate, and hire the right candidates fast. Try ZipRecruiter with a free 4-day trial now at ZipRecruiter.com/TNT.
Hello and welcome to Tech News Today, the show where we talk about the latest tech news with people who love technology.
Yeah.
I am Megan Morrone.
Yeah. I'm Jason Howell. How's it going, Megan?
It's going great. We're heading into a holiday weekend.
I know.
Looking forward to it.
It's true. This was one of those weekends. Every once in a while, like we aren't going to be here on Monday. And I love it when I forget that fact, and then I'm surprised by it literally a day or two beforehand, and it's like a bonus day out of nowhere, even though it was on our calendar.
Aren't you afraid we're going to miss something, like something's going to happen over the weekend?
Well, yeah, and for me it's a little more it's a little complicated because Monday is normally the time that I do a bunch of work for some of my other shows, and so I got to figure that one out. I'm going to be camping. I'm not going to be doing, document spreadsheet work at the campground. So
I will prepare all about Android for you.
Oh, thank you.
Because I know all about the Android.
It's actually Android App Arena that I have a real challenge with. So can you review 4 Android apps by Monday and write a before review on them? Excellent. I appreciate it, Megan. You're awesome. Also awesome is our guest today, Adam Christianson, the MacCast podcast. How's it going, Adam?
Hey, it's going great. Thanks for having me back on.
Absolutely. We've got some awesome stories to throw around, a couple of which tie into the Apple world, and one that I'm very much looking forward to in regards to kind of design, I don't know, ethics, or I'm not sure what you call it, but I think we're going to have a good conversation about that and everything else.
All right, let's get started. Nothing is certain in this life but death and taxes and ads on the internet.
It got dark real fast here.
Facebook has just announced that they are the best at targeting you with unobtrusive ads that you want to see. And because they're the best, they're going to start showing you these ads everywhere, even outside of Facebook. Even if you don't have a Facebook account. In a blog post on Thursday, Facebook said they show their ads. They will show their ads to everyone who visits websites and services in their audience network. Now, it's unclear who should be more afraid of this. We, the innocent web surfers, or Google. What do you guys think about this? Adam, you go first.
I'm going to go first.
Yeah.
It's ads on the internet. I don't know. If Google can put them out there, Facebook can put them out there too. I would assume this is the kind of thing where it's up to the site to opt into whatever advertising, Facebook is offering up and the ad network. If they can do a better job at the targeting than Google, I might not be so angry.
Right. I mean, we all make our living out of ad-supported media. So, it's silly to say no more ads. But I do find this interesting. They're going to be reviewed against Facebook standards. They say you can go into your Facebook preferences and change what you want to see and what you don't want to see. Then that's complicated. What if you don't have a Facebook account? But then, they say on the blog post how you can do it on a web browser or an iOS. I know you can just go to your privacy settings and tap advertising, turn off ad tracking, but then that means they're still going to show you ads, just not the ones targeted. Yeah, so it's that trade-off. It's like, okay, well then I'll just see really random ads but they're not tracking me.
Yeah. Now, prior to this, as you said, you had to be a Facebook user. You also had to be logged in order for any of that, that kind of matching the ad targeting to work. And I know a lot of people, you hear from a lot of people. Now, mind you, Facebook is incredibly popular in the billions of users, but I know a lot of people that refuse Facebook simply for that reason. They're creeped out for whatever reason about what Facebook is doing in the data collection and all this kind of stuff. And I'm always kind of surprised to hear that they're not with the data collection that happens with others like Google and ads. That's just the way it is. So I wonder how they're going to feel about the fact that, those ardent anti-Facebookers are going to feel about the fact that even not having an account on Facebook is not enough to keep yourself away from Facebook at this point. Whether you want to or not, you will be targeted by Facebook in some way, shape, or form. I think that's going to upset some people.
Do you think the average person, though, really even knows where those ads are coming from?
Sure.
I mean, so many of them are there's so many ad networks out there, and depending on the site you visit, you're getting ads sourced from so many different locations. And frankly, to be honest, the Google stuff and I would imagine the Facebook stuff tends to be, I think, a little on the higher. It depends on which side of the Google ad network, I guess, you're on. But, it tends to be a little bit higher. Again, my biggest problem with Google is they've always promised, we're going to have really good targeted relevant ads. Mm-hmm. And, like one of my biggest frustrations is when I go online to pay my insurance bill every month. For the next, 3 weeks, I see ads for the insurance company that I'm already a customer of.
Yeah.
So it's like, you guys show me some competitor ads, like try and win me away. That makes more sense. I only go to this website once a month, same time every month. It seems like the analytics would be there to figure out what's going on in that scenario. So if Facebook can do it with a little more smarts, and I think they've done it. I build websites, and a lot of people that I know from, being advertisers, they like the amount of sort of targeting. And there's two different philosophies going on too, where I think Google tries to target sort of what you do, whereas Facebook's the more traditional, we're gonna figure out what segment you're in, so where you live and more demographic based. So, and it'll be interesting to see which one turns out to be better in terms of the targeting.
You say, will the average person notice? And is the average person on Facebook? I mean, there's so many, 6.1 billion people on Facebook. I think there's a set of average people who are not on Facebook just because they can't be, they really just have no interest or they're afraid of technology. I certainly know people in my life who just can't be bothered with Facebook, even getting an account. But I think there's a lot of people who are specifically not on Facebook. I saw this joke on the internet earlier today. It was like, how you know if someone's not on Facebook? Because they will constantly tell you that they're not on Facebook.
And that's kind of what I was talking about. The people who are so ardent. I don't think that the average everyday person is going to know whether they see an ad from Facebook or not. But I do think that the people care enough to be so incredibly ardent about the fact that they are not on Facebook might actually care about the fact that even though they aren't, they're still going to be passing along, identifiable data to Facebook that will, allow in targeting ads. Is that going to be the end of the world? No, probably not. But that really does upset a lot of people. 1.6 billion. I think you got the numbers
that's how many
backwards. 6.1 billion. Yeah. It's 1.65 billion monthly active.
Thank you. I saw you checking my math.
I just wanted to be sure because I was like, man, if it's that, wow, it just jumped.
The people in the world.
And honestly, if they're really worried about it now, I mean, ad blocker support in phones and all of our browsers and stuff like that is so prevalent. If you're at that level, I would imagine you can still maintain control. You're going to figure out how to go to the Facebook page and turn it off. You're going to figure out how to run an ad blocker in your browser if that's really what you're concerned about.
Yeah,
so.
I'm sure a lot of those people probably know how to do that now. It's certainly a lot easier now than it ever has been to do that. So there you go. You have the tools. All right, Google announced some excellent things at last week's Google I.O., but it was last week, right? My weeks are all getting blurred together at this point. Some time ago at Google I.O., but the running theme through most of it was you're going to have to wait. And in some cases, some of those awesome things will require you to buy brand new hardware to even take advantage of it, such as the case with Android's Daydream VR platform, kind of part of the Android platform. Clay Bavor, who's Google's VR chief, he actually introduced Daydream during the I.O. keynote, says not to expect your current device to be retroactively set as Daydream ready. Bavor said the right mixture of components are required to even pull this off, and as such, he recommends waiting a few months. I think that's an interesting, couple of months. We're probably going to have an announcement of a new Nexus device, I'm guessing. Wait a few months to grab a phone that is, quote, Daydream ready. So kind of disappointing. I'm sure a lot of people saw this and thought, well, Android N is going to be released and automatically my phone is going to become a VR device. But it turns out you're going to have to upgrade your device in order to tap into it.
But don't you Android users upgrade your device every 3 months?
That's what we do.
You?
That's what I do. But I work here. I'm very much in the minority as far as that's concerned. But it's true. There's always the the desire to upgrade hardware, and people who are passionate in Android, as I'm sure across all of technology, are up on kind of those upgrades and happy to do it if they need to.
This is really about GPUs and refresh rates, right? I'm not totally up on especially being an iPhone user, OLED. And OLED technology has typically, I think, been a little bit slower on refresh rate, right? So that's kind of a critical factor. And I think Samsung just announced, it was like this afternoon, I was seeing stories, they have a new 4K display that sounds like it's targeting VR. So
yeah, for the longest time, people have been like, man, why are they even thinking about putting 4K displays in smartphones? Like, what is the point? And I think that's exactly it, right? Like VR, you're blowing up all those pixels with the goggle that you're popping them into, so it makes more sense. Hopefully, you can cut down on the screen door effect and all that kind of stuff. But Google did say during the event that we were going to have to wait until the fall to see an Android device that was, that the new crop of Daydream ready devices. But Chinese manufacturer ZTE just released the first Daydream ready phone, ZTE Axon 7. It's running a Snapdragon 820. It's under $500. They have a lot of low cost. ZTE is one of those manufacturers that has a healthy number of lower cost hardware. They have some premium devices that have had mixed reviews. So anyways, if you want to get in early for Daydream, even though there is no, VR hardware to back it up at this point, or even a version of Android to run Daydream on yet, here you go.
Daydream.
It's spec'd and ready to go.
That's the phone. What's the GPU? I think that's going to be where the key is, right? Is because you got to drive the stereoscopic images at a pretty good resolution.
Yeah.
And you need 60 frames a second. You need high refresh rate, all these things. So
yeah, I'm not seeing any information specifically on the GPU. I am seeing it's a 5.5-inch display AMOLED. So, kind of might suffer as being an OLED. 2560 by 1440. So higher resolution display. But yeah, it doesn't say anything about GPU underneath. And Snapdragon 820 processor with 4 gigs of RAM. So, that's kind of the modern high-end processor, the 820. 4 gigs of RAM is about as maxed out as you're seeing in smartphones right now. But there are other phones that do this. So I'm very curious to know what makes a phone specifically Daydream ready underneath that the current crop of devices don't have, like the Nexus 6P.
Yeah, Google said, I think it's really about the experience. I mean, they want to make sure they're on top of the best VR experiences. While there's current phones on the market that can do it, it's, how good is the experience? Are you experiencing, eye strain and fatigue? Are you getting, the dizziness stuff? So,
right.
A lot of the higher end technologies, if you can do the faster frame rates and faster refresh rates, it's going to minimize those effects for people.
Sure.
So far, we're not Daydream believers yet. Is that?
I like it. Go ahead and type that in while you talk.
Google's iOS app just got an update. In a post on the Google blog, the company says pages will load faster, and even though these are small improvements, they will save app users a combined 6.5 million hours just this year. Google's accelerated mobile pages, also called AMP, will also come to Google's iOS app, letting some news articles load instantly. So another iOS app news, Jason Snell has an interesting piece in Macworld that I thought was worth discussing. It's about how Google uses the material design approach when creating apps for iOS. So instead of looking like iOS apps, they often look and act like Android apps. And Snell compares this to the Microsoft of the 90s when Office programs like Microsoft Word and Excel on the Mac were based on the Windows code base and were kind of janky sometimes. So what do you guys think about this? Do you think that it's okay for them to use material design in iOS apps?
What do you think, Adam?
I think it's their prerogative. I kind of get both sides of the coin, and I definitely get what Jason is saying. I mean, he pointed out the fact that, Apple Music came out on Android, and if you look at that, Apple was using a lot of the Android controls. They take that tact of let's stick with, what the operating system is and what's going to be familiar to a user of that platform. Now, to be honest, I think iTunes on the PC stinks. So it was never a good experience. So I was happy to see Apple do that. And Google's going to argue the other way. They're going to say, well, we want to have a consistent Google experience across web, across every screen that you're going to be using our products on. So I can see both sides of the coin, especially in a world where, we are using a bunch of different screens, from a tablet to a desktop to, a smartphone. So I get both sides. I get Jason's point. What's right? I don't know. I think I'm more in Jason's camp personally. I'd prefer it looked more and acted more like an iOS app, but I'm admittedly biased.
Yeah, I completely agree with what you just said, Adam. I feel kind of mixed on both sides here. Google's stated purpose with material design when they kind of rolled this out a couple of years ago, and they say it right in the spec. It says, develop a single underlying system that allows for a unified experience across platforms and device sizes. So right out of the gate, they're basically saying this is, this is ultimately how we want our apps to translate across all these different places. If you're using Gmail on the web and on the phone and whatever, I think Google's trying to make it so that you don't have to relearn how to use it depending on what platform you are, because very often we do use a lot of these apps in many different places, like what you were saying, Adam. But at the same time, like, I remember early days of Android when iOS apps were being ported over to Android, and they were totally done in that, like, iOS, and I don't even think it was called iOS at the time, but, the iPhone kind of style experience, and it stood out like a sore thumb. And I remember being just kind of upset, like, we've got our own thing going over here that really works for this platform, and that design language just doesn't work here. So I completely get it. Like, it kind of feels a little intrusive and presumptuous to say our design that we developed for our platform is going to work on your platform. Like, I don't know. It makes sense to me on the web. Like, material design on the web, I think, actually really works for the web. But when you're going into a different OS platform, maybe that's the differentiator, and that all OS platforms really operate very differently from each other, and they have their own language that hopefully, is kind of followed, I suppose.
It's interesting that he used the example of Apple Music. And I think if you scroll down on Jason's article, you can look and see them compared, because that's really the only big app that people on Android use, the big Apple app.
Well, yeah, I mean the only other one is the switch over.
Only,
yeah. I mean, is there
only Apple app?
And it's not like you hear people being like, I love, like, Android users, I love Apple Music, like, I can't get rid of it.
I remember when Apple rolled out the Apple Music app for Android, I remember ardent Android users being pretty positive on it. And I actually was too, like, in the fact that it really seemed like Apple took the platform to mind, to heart. And I think I even read a lot of people saying, this app, the app on Android, is actually better than the app on iOS. So Apple actually out Androided Google, in that sense. So Apple, I think Apple did a great job of kind of respecting the language of the platform, but still offering the thing that they're known for, and maybe that's what Google needs to do. They certainly have the resources. It's not like Google doesn't have a number of people, on their team that could be devoted to kind of tailoring the design language a little bit more.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it's really a different thing. I mean, I can name a half a dozen Google apps that I love on my iPhone that I wouldn't give up for, that are better than the iOS version. I use Inbox. I love it.
Sure.
And then there's like the apps that you have to use, like Google Sheets and Google Docs, which they don't work great on your Android phone either, do they? So it's like, that's not a good example either.
Yeah, it's almost just like the form factor itself is the limitation when you're doing like a Google spreadsheet, as opposed to how it's designed. And they have made bad design choices on those apps as well. So I don't know, it's kind of a mixed bag.
That was the reason I kind of liked the concept behind Material, though, because historically Google has not been that great about creating consistent user experiences. So when they announced that whole platform, I thought this is pretty good. But I think what happens is it really benefits the people who are really all in on Google platform, whether it's a Chromebook or, using the web apps or those sorts of things. I think, what Jason is more talking about is, I think, a little more the casual user who's an iOS user but wants to download the Google app or wants to download, Google Maps. They're going to struggle a little bit more with the UI, at least initially, because they don't have those familiar controls. But I think once you get past that, and you learn the Google language, then I think you're fine.
Yeah, agreed. Now, remember the Apple encryption debate? Remember that thing? It ruled the airwaves for a few months starting in February. Senators Richard Burr and Dianne Feinstein had proposed draft legislation a little more than a month ago to enable backdoor access to get law enforcement around encrypted communication. It was obviously it was a hot topic. Some were kind of quick to act on that, yet sources are now saying that support for such legislation is evaporating in Washington, D.C., and that the Burr-Feinstein legislation is unlikely to be introduced this year. Not only that, source claims it wouldn't stand a chance even if it was introduced, and much of that is attributed to how the White House just did not support, was not behind it, lacked their support. The House never backed the draft. Many key Republicans and Democrats distanced themselves from the idea, but Burr still says to be patient, kind of hinting at a longer process, a prolonged process. So it seemed like the snowball that was just building, and then poof, it evaporated, and we've heard nothing about it anymore. So
for now,
yeah, that's true. I'm sure there are a lot of things going on behind the scenes. I know a big part of this was, from what we're reading here, that the NSA and the CIA, the section this makes a lot of sense. It was one of the points that I heard time and time again, feared that any new legislation might actually affect their own efforts in encryption. So maybe it just becomes one of those things where it hits a little too close to home and you better not risk it. I don't know. What do you think, Adam?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, this was kind of talked to death, so yeah. I don't know there's much more to comment on it, other than my favorite part of this whole story is that Burr is actually a long time ancestor from Aaron Burr, who actually used encryption quite heavily and relied on it for a lot of his communications. So
good, yeah.
Irony.
It is. Well, the Scripps National Spelling Bee ended in a tie last night for the third year in a row. After 39 rounds, two boys ended by spelling the words Feldenkrais and Gesellschaft correctly. I can't even pronounce them. Now, if you were scrolling through Twitter last night, as I was, you might have seen that half of your feed was dedicated to people live tweeting the Warriors game, and the other half were live tweeting the spelling bee. It was amazing. If you were one of those live tweeting the spelling bee, you better have your spell check turned on, because the official Twitter account of the Scripps Spelling Bee was watching and correcting. You might have already seen this. The most popular tweet came from a user named Kyle Chapman, who said, "Unsure why the National Spelling Bee has a comfort couch, you beep, lost, suck it up, quit teaching kids it's okay to lose," is what he meant to write, I'm assuming, but he wrote loose, L-O-O-S-E.
Quit teaching them it's okay to loose.
And this National Spelling Bee was quick to correct him, and then he deleted his account, which was funny.
It was Twitter shamed.
I know, right?
Yeah, and there were
all because of an extra letter.
Yeah,
which may have even been an autocorrect or some weird thing.
True.
I guess it shouldn't autocorrect like that.
Yeah,
but stranger things have happened.
This is the perfect example of like my mixed feelings on edit inside Twitter. Like, it's a feature that doesn't exist, and how many times do I just want to go into a tweet that I've already done and correct a misspelling? But then at the same time, like, then you wouldn't understand the reply to this,
right?
And it would be a joke lost forever. But
you're not often dropping F-bombs on Twitter about this.
I'm not.
Not often.
I'm not doing that, but I definitely misspell things.
The takeaway is always proofread your tweets. I've gotten much better at doing that. I still send out the odd one because you're trying to do it quick or on the phone, but take a pause, read it back.
Yeah, my problem is mobile. Like when I'm on the go and have a thing, send, and it's not until like 2 hours later that I open it up and realize what happened.
All your quote unquote friends telling you.
Well, my other favorite part of this story is that the USA Today says the people behind the Twitter account, the Scripps Spelling Bee Twitter account, are former Spelling Bee champions. So if you ever wondered where that would get you or your child, the Spelling Bee, they're volunteers for the social media team.
I mean, honestly, if there is such an account as a Spelling Bee Twitter account, which there obviously is, this is how you do it.
Yeah,
like you spell check people that at reply you. That's It makes perfect sense to me.
And it is part of why what I love about Twitter, because there are a few its and its. That was the big thing when people don't get the apostrophe right in the its, and that was when back in the Tech TV days when I would get emails complaining about stuff. I so wanted to, and sometimes did reply just like it's it's this, and now you can do it in a much more public way on Twitter
in front of everyone.
In front of everyone.
Everyone that's on Twitter. Which, that's
6 billion people are on Twitter. Have you heard that?
The entire population of Earth is on Twitter. They wish. Up next, Sam Machkovech from Ars Technica joins us to tell us a little bit about things like killing time in a virtual pool hall. I love this. I can't wait to talk about it. But first, let's take a minute to thank ZipRecruiter. They are the sponsor of this episode. Do you own or run a business? And if so, are you hiring? I'm sure you have hired before. Do you know where to post your job to find the best candidates? Much of it is such a challenge. It can be really difficult to find the perfect person for your business. And finding that perfect person is next to impossible without the right tools. So if you want to find the perfect hire, you need to post your job on all the top job sites. And with ZipRecruiter, you can do that. Posting jobs in one place isn't enough to find quality candidates. You need to cast the net far and wide, so don't leave it up to chance. With ZipRecruiter.com, you can post to more than 100 job boards, including social media networks like Facebook, Twitter, and Google+, all with a single click. Just one click. Poof, done. Just post once and watch your candidates roll into the easy-to-use interface that ZipRecruiter has. It offers optimized pages that look great on any screen. And you can add their mobile apply process for even more visitors and applicants. You can find candidates in any city or industry nationwide, all over the map. No more juggling emails or calls to your office. That stuff takes time and attention. You can add multiple users to your account too if you want help to qualify. Quickly screen candidates with real-world questions using freeform, multiple choice, and yes/no formats. And you can view their responses in conjunction with their beautifully formatted resumes. You can rate them. And then, of course, the most important part, hire them. Hire the right person and fast. Find out today why ZipRecruiter has been used by over 800,000 businesses. More than 100 million candidate applications have been delivered. So you can add one more to that number. Right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free by going to ZipRecruiter.com/TNT. That's ZipRecruiter.com/TNT. And we thank ZipRecruiter for their support of Tech News Today. So you're always playing a bunch of something, Sam Machkovech of Ars Technica, and you're joining us today to talk about what you've been playing a little something of. How's it going, Sam?
It's going quite well. It's good to see everybody. First off, I just got this toy here. I'm really excited.
Can tell.
And I know I already saw you guys have yours arranged way better, so I'm just going to do this as much as possible. No. But in terms of gaming, I could start with anything, but I'm really tempted to start with a game that starts with the letter O. Are you on board?
Oh, yeah.
I am on board.
I think so.
I am.
Oh, I hear Megan's on board. I hear she's been checking Wikipedia, the most reputable of sources for video gaming news.
I just wanted to get the basics before, so I could ask the right question.
Well, go ahead, lead into this section now that you're the expert. What do you got?
There's heroes. There's some AI. It's Mario who runs our prompter, who loves Overwatch.
It's a video game.
He's crying.
It's a video game.
I just made him cry.
For a second, I thought you were going to say there's heroes. There's a guy named Mario.
No,
there's
not Mario.
mushrooms.
No, Mario works here. I've made him cry because I don't know anything about Overwatch. So continue. Edify me.
Overwatch has been cooking for some time. Blizzard hasn't gone on the record to say that this has anything to do with the game that never came out. It was a code name, I believe. Titan was the name of this project that never came out, which was an MMO that was going to follow up World of Warcraft. It's hard not to see something to that effect in what Overwatch looks like, which is a battle between 21 very different, colorful, beautifully rendered, beautifully designed characters who are all just jumping around, beating the crap out of each other on the internet. What it really boils down to is this idea of a team-based shooter, which was popularized particularly by Team Fortress 2 many years ago, which was made by Valve Software here in Seattle. What Overwatch does is it says, well, there are these team-based games where you can pick from one of 7 roles. There's people between who are really strong and really fast and can heal and have these sort of specific classes. And there are much larger games like League of Legends, which have like 100 characters who have a lot of overlap and doing a lot of different stuff. Overwatch splits the difference by having 21 characters who are all different in really meaningful ways, and they face off in 6-on-6 combat. So your team of 6 and your opponent's team of 6 will never have every single cool power in the game. The result is an online shooting cat and mouse sort of thing where everybody's sort of battling over points. It's very capture the flaggy with a lot more shooting and jumping around and hooting and hollering. But I have been really impressed with this basic idea that everyone you pick can be meaningful and can be different. I find every time I play the game feels quite different. If I've got the whole list of people right here. They're all very colorful and easy to mix up. There's May, who's got the ability to just create these giant freezing walls and freeze people. There's Widowmaker, who's a really interesting sniper. Torbjorn, who's the sort of engineer, but has some twists on the engineer form. There's a guy named Junkrat, who can create a bomb that is stuck to a wheel and drive it around, but also has a bunch of grenade launcher things. We have a giant gorilla with an electric gun. We've got Diva, who's this anime-styled lady who rides around in a giant mech that she can then jump out of and blow up. It feels... all these characters, it's easy to sit around talking about any video game and rattle them off. But as I rattle these names off to you, I can remember very specific fights I've had with each of them. Their powers feel very interesting to me, and they all play together in certain ways that I'm going to need one guy who has a nice shield, one person who has the freeze gun, one person who has the electric gun. They all interplay in this way so that after a battle, I sort of recall, do you guys remember when the shield went up and then we did this and did that? And every time it's different. Every 6-person team has these sorts of powers add up in this rock meets paper meets scissors meets Pikachu meets, I don't know, there's just a lot of spider webbing of powers. As a result, when it comes to the kind of game where you're going to go on the internet and team up with people and shoot at stuff, it has that sauce that I just haven't seen in a shooting game in a long time. I enjoyed it in the beta, which was going for some weeks. I've enjoyed it this week since it's been out. We actually filmed ourselves playing it at Ars Technica on Monday, it was Monday afternoon, and it was a blast. And we've continued to team up and play it. And we're all very busy people who sometimes will play a game for a minute and go, I've got other stuff to do. And I don't see this game being that way. I see this as something I plan on playing for a while as someone who doesn't do as many online shooters as I used to when I was younger. So I like it. I have fun with it. And I do think there's enough stuff happening so that if you stink at online games, you can get a sort of reinforcement. This video that's showing up, if you pay a little bit of attention, it'll show a lot of awarding for all the little things each character can do. Freeze gun person gets some points for putting up a shield. Electric guy gets points for putting up a little block. There's just different ways where the game says, you're doing a pretty good job, even if you stink. Here's you are being encouraged a little bit. So it definitely pays off to know what you're doing and to team up well with other people. The game even tells you before you start a match that your team is imbalanced in certain ways. So if for any reason everyone picks the same character, the game will warn you, hey, maybe you should get a sniper. Hey, maybe you should get a shield person. And that's kind of interesting. And it's been encouraging people who don't talk on the internet to at least go, oh, well, we need to at least team up in this certain way. So all those things add up to a game where when I'm playing with strangers, I have a good time. When I'm playing with friends, I have a really good time. So I'm not great at it, but the game's been telling me that I'm decent, so I like that too. So Overwatch is out. It's $40 on computers. It's $60 on Xbox One and PlayStation 4. It's online only. There's no single-player campaign, and everything in the game is free just to play. It's got some stuff where you can unlock costumes and other little perks, and you can pay to do those faster. But everything in the game, including new levels and new characters, is going to be free from here on out, is what they're saying. So that's nice that you know that for an online game, when you pay, you're done. That's it. You can pay that $40 or that $60 and you just can keep playing for years. So I think people will be doing so as a result.
Can I get it on my Mac?
No.
No, you won't be playing this, Megan.
I don't know when that's going to change. And I know Blizzard, who's made World of Warcraft, StarCraft, and all that, all the rest of their games work on Macs. And this game actually scales really well for crappy computers. I have a really underpowered old Surface Pro that it runs on. And I've just turned some settings down and it's smooth and I'm able to shoot at people. So I wouldn't be shocked to see them get their stuff together and go, all right, here's Mac support coming down the line. So maybe someday. I'm not sure that I see you as a first-person shooter player. I'm not sure this will convert anyone who hates the whole mouse and keyboard sort of thing, but it's colorful and fun. It's great to look at. And I really do see they're going to be announcing league kind of gaming, competitive gaming, and I could see that really taking off in terms of esports. It's a very colorful, fun thing to watch, and it's easy to parse. Like you can look at it and go, well, I think I know what's going on, which I can't say the same for with a lot of these shooter games.
Sure.
So,
Adam, you were saying before the show that you were interested, at least, in Overwatch. Are you liking what you're seeing in
We
here?
used to play a ton of Unreal Tournament, and this feels and looks very, I know it's a different style of game, but, you know, we used to get in those big battles, you know, when I worked at a company a while back, and it was always a lot of fun. And I love the visual style and look of this game. Like he was saying, the character design looks really interesting. All the characters look very different. But just the visual style, and as an artist and somebody who's into that sort of stuff, I always appreciate the visual aesthetic. So I like how they put it together.
Yeah. And there's a certain amount of speed that really makes me think about those old days of Unreal Tournament and Quake 3 Arena. You know, those are very different games, but they both were very fast. I liked that back in the day, and I like speed. It's fun, even though I don't know what's happening. It's happening really fast. So that's exciting.
So one major player in the gaming world that doesn't seem to have an announced VR game plan right now is Microsoft and its Xbox One. But it sounds like more and more sources are pointing to an upgraded Xbox, something we actually spoke about a little bit earlier this week, that might be powerful enough for VR. What's the word, Sam?
I'm really interested to see what actually plays out. The rumors are starting to brew and cook up about what Xbox plans are, because PlayStation 4, as we all know, PlayStation did announce quietly to a lot of developers that they had a PlayStation 4.5 coming soon, like could be as soon as this October. And I think Xbox has been caught off guard with the fact that PlayStation is saying that and pushing that hard for this sort of incremental kind of upgrade that will play old games, but make them play better, and newer games will play better. It's this sort of confusing thing. But Phil Harrison from Xbox had hinted at something similar. He'd made an announcement in, I want to say late April, or was it late February? Either way, making an announcement about this idea of Xbox being this growing platform that's going to just last at all times. But he said nothing or hinted at nothing about virtual reality. However, we had a source at Ars Technica reach out and confirm to us that they had something at E3, a virtual reality project, and they tucked into the text. In fact, this had been sitting in our inbox for like a week, and we just didn't notice that it said virtual reality for computer, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One. And we said, what? Because nobody from Xbox has announced a specific virtual reality initiative. And the developer said, yep, it's definitely going to be a virtual reality game, and it'll definitely be coming out on Xbox One, and we're aiming for 2017. That's all we could pump out of this source. I don't know that they're friends with us anymore, but we did. With the information that has come from other sources is that an Xbox 1.5, whose project name starts with the letter S, and I'm totally blanking on it. It's some silly, weird creature name. But there could be another Xbox coming by next year that would essentially be 4 times the power of the current Xbox. The term they're saying 6 teraflops. I hate using these sort of abstract terms. It reminds me of back when people called video games 16-bit versus 32-bit, and they didn't mean anything. But that is a lot of power compared to the current Xbox One, which is already behind PlayStation 4. So that's certainly a boost that Xbox One could use, and it would be necessary to power the demands of virtual reality. Virtual reality is pumping so many frames per second so that you don't feel sick as it's rapidly updating something on your face to make it feel like you are in another world. And so a more powerful Xbox would certainly be useful for that. But Xbox doesn't have its own headset at all. The closest they have is that they have partnered with Oculus. That Microsoft and Oculus have partnered so that there would be an Xbox One gamepad packed with every Oculus Rift headset. So the big money is on that partnership continuing somehow, some way, that there could be a future where your home Xbox system would tie into Oculus Rift so that you could, have Halo on your headset. But that's all conjecture and guesswork at this work. Nobody's talking. Nobody's opening up and admitting anything about Microsoft doing VR. That being said, they have HoloLens, and I know that they're interested in Oculus because they've pushed very hard for the Minecraft on Oculus platform. which I've tried out, and it's kind of sickening at this point, and they really need to fix it. But the attention's still there. Developing anything that's at least VR compatible is not that hard to do. If people want to opt into it and it blows up, great. If not, then that's research they can put towards whatever else might be virtual reality-ish down the road. But definitely something is coming for Xbox and virtual reality. And that's good news, I think, for virtual reality in general, because as I've found, it's happening. Virtual reality works at its best. It's super interesting and compelling, especially with hand controls. And I would love to see Microsoft and Xbox come right out of the gate and say, you need a hand controller. Using a gamepad and using the hand controller, I think, are very different things. And PlayStation's VR solution at least has its own wand system, the PlayStation Move, which lets you simulate having hands in virtual reality. I think that's a big deal. And I think anything Microsoft says or does at this coming E3 better talk about hand control, or otherwise I'm going to take a nap on it. Because if it's just a gamepad, that's been there, done that. There's lots of reasons why it's not as good. Give me hand control or go somewhere else. That's sort of my personal call on that.
I know some people have gotten their HoloLens developer kits. Have you gotten your hands on any, or know anyone who's gotten their hands on a HoloLens?
We've had time with HoloLens, especially its final developer kit versions. Peter Bright, more than anybody else, since he's our head Microsoft writer. And because it's not as much of a game machine these days, it's got some game proof of concepts, but the price tag and the push towards developer friendliness is really, they're really looking at it as more of an application, enterprise friendly product at this point, because it's just early days. The field of view on it is so tiny. The idea is whatever I see that's HoloLensy looks amazing, but it's this sort of, I call it like a small box like this, like as I hold my hand. If you hold your hands all the way out and create a big box with your hands like that. Sorry, I don't know if you could hear me talking when I was.
Yeah, we got you.
But if you do that trick, that kind of estimates what you do see. Like, so if you stand a distance back from a table, you'll go, wow, that really looks like architecture on the table. It completely exists there. But if you get right up to it, you can only see those little details that fit in that field of view. That's something that Microsoft has to fix. Other than, or if that's just, it's going to have to grow over time. But other than that, the part that does work is 100% incredibly convincing. No stutter, no judder, no lag. It really looks like things are there. It really sells that feeling of hologram. I want one. I want two. I want 5 of them, just in case like the other 4 break. I would love to just live in a HoloLens world. It is such a cool product. So, and that's only going to get better in the next 1 to 2 years as more applications and more useful things for it come together. And so it makes people look at it and go, oh, it's something cool, as opposed to, oh gosh, Google Glass, no thanks. So.
Yeah, right. Now, speaking of, going back to VR anyways, from the AR of HoloLens, you spent some time in a virtual pool hall, and I was watching the video that you sent us. I found myself kind of pining for my own VR pool hall. Tell us a little bit about this.
So Pool Nation VR, we're going to be, this by the way is me pretending I'm at the bar demoing. I got my Fight Club style leather jacket and my beer. It's really hard to VR and drink beer at the same time. I'm just going to put that out there. But what I think is interesting about Pool Nation VR is it essentially says, people like to say that virtual reality is too cumbersome, too expensive. Well, gosh, what's more expensive than that? A pool table in your house. So the idea that you could take a VR kit and have that work as a fake pool hall makes me go, well, gosh, for the price and the size of room necessary, I could totally write that off and maybe convince a significant other to, fill my house with that kind of garbage. At any rate, Pool Nation has existed on PlayStation, Xbox, and computer platforms, and they've been working on a beta of this virtual reality version for a few months, and they gave us a beta key up ahead of the actual launch on June 1st. It's not out yet. This is not yet a review. They're still ironing out some final kinks. That's me knocking over some beer bottles in VR. But the basic idea is, how do you play pool in virtual reality? There's a part of the video that shows me trying and failing to lean on the table, because you can't do that. In the pool hall, you get an elbow down and you sort of position yourself and line up your shot and get your left hand with the positioning and chalk your hand and all that stuff. So how do you do that in virtual reality? What it does is you take your left hand as sort of your aiming, stopping hand for your stick, and you hold down a trigger button, and that freezes that hand in place so that you can then just use your right hand to just finish the shot and go boom. And I find it very convincing and interesting to be able to do that, to virtually walk around the table, to use a button to teleport around the different edges, to play against other people online. It's just very convincing and interesting to be able to lean toward the ball, to look all around the table, to take the stick in my two hands, by the way, because you have to use both controllers to sort of get the angle of it right. And I'm able to take the stick with both of my hands and do this sort of fake geometry measure of holding the stick over to different, from the cue ball to the hole I want to go to, or from the cue ball to the ball I want to hit, and sort of measure out, okay, how am I going to angle this? And it's got a couple of little cheats, particularly a ghost ball effect, which it lets you sort of estimate where your ball is going to hit. But it still has a physics engine that's measuring exactly how hard you bonk it. And if you watch the whole video, when it's going to go live either Sunday or Monday at Ars Technica, you will see me bonk the ball way too hard, and you can do some cool English things with it, and you can do some hops and things like that. I could not pull any of those off yet, which means it's a realistic pool game because I am just as bad at real life pool. But I found it. It's not perfect. It's certainly going to a pool hall is better. Having a pool table is better. But just being able to have a pool game that works online. With this way, it's certainly better than any Xbox or PlayStation version of pool by far. I mean, that's just a cinch.
That's pretty awesome. I love it. It's very, I mean, you know, VR is all about immersion. And I mean, this just like pulls you right in. I mean, and also watching you stumble around the room is a lot of fun too.
Well, right. That is the real living room. That is the Vive hole that I've created for myself. And you can also play darts and do other stuff. There's actually a point at the end of the video where I just go up to the fake human beings at this pool hall and try and pick a fight. You have to tune in to ours this weekend to see what that's about. But yeah, I do think it's going to be interesting to see more parlor games kind of pop up. In the virtual reality space or augmented reality, a bit like darts and things that only kind of worked on the Wii and the Kinect. Having really, truly tracked hands totally changes how you play with these sort of physical games. That not being able to lean on things, not being able to have some of this physical stuff is one thing, but the approximation of this pool game really surprised me and blew me away. So I imagine, hey, don't show me fighting that guy just yet. That's me whooping a butt. But yeah, I think there's something to be said about that sort of physical gaming and the abstractions that can result. Like the idea of, I like to think of NES ice hockey as the ultimate. That's not like real hockey. It takes some of the ideas that are familiar and then adds their own video game twists. I would love to see what virtual reality can do for these concepts that we're familiar with. You know, bocce ball on a crazy alien spaceship, for example. That would probably be my dream because I'm a 70-year-old man tucked into this body right here and stuff like that. But I love this stuff. At any rate, June 1st is when that comes out officially. $20 for anyone who does own an HTC Vive. Megan definitely will not work on the Mac.
Okay. Well, we have a Vive here at the office that I can play it there.
And I have a feeling you're going to get a Vive one of these days. It's going to happen. More and more, this stuff's going to grow on you. You're going to need one. That's just my hunch.
Thank you so much, Sam.
Yeah, thank you, Sam.
So the whole video will be available at Ars Technica this weekend?
Yes, it will. It will. As will my. I just have a whole big thing about a SoundCloud service that is trying to auto master music. You'll have to tune in to me talking to some engineers and doing some sound analysis of my own to find out what I think of it. My scare quotes might sort of give you a hint as to what to expect from that one. And otherwise, I'm going to be laying in the Seattle not sun this whole Memorial Day weekend. And I hope you guys' weather is just as well. I hope it's better than what we have. But I hope you guys have a great Memorial Day weekend and see you guys soon.
Thank you, Sam. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Well, thank you, all of you who wrote in about how you still regularly visit the video store, or you would if there was still one in your neighborhood. And thanks to Bill, who left us a voicemail about how he still goes to the video store with his daughter and then gets pizza afterwards from inside the video store.
That's not a normal video store. I've never even heard of getting pizza inside a video store.
Take it up with Bill.
Okay.
Thanks also to Doug Austin, who wrote to us about Family Video, which not only still has a chain of more than 700 video stores across the country, also has a Twitter account.
Oh.
Video stores have not lost to the robots inside our television yet.
So then I have to ask you, Adam, when was the last time you set foot inside a video store? And do you even have one around where you live right now?
I don't even remember. And no, we have Redbox still, I think. Maybe those are gone too. I don't pay that much attention, to be honest.
I know.
And I think they're still in the grocery store because I think I see people, picking that up after they pick up some groceries. But no, I can't even remember the last time I was in one.
Man, Redbox, not the same. Not the same.
No,
I don't know.
No, not at all. Not at all. But I'm trying to think if there's even like a little local, like there may be a few around, but no.
I feel like if you go like, take a weekend and go up into the mountains to like a mountain town or whatever, you might find a video store here and there from time to time. I feel like that happens every year when I go to go to Idaho, go up to a town called McCall, and you're guaranteed to find a video store up there for whatever reason.
Kind of place, yeah.
TNT's fan of the day is James Kaler at JKK. JKAEH. It's not very easy to say. On Twitter, who says, I watch and listen to TNT while helping my wife prepare Blue Apron meals, which that's awesome. Cooking General Tso's chicken. And now I'm hungry again. This is what happens when I see Blue Apron on this show. Show us how you watch or listen to TNT. Just record a video or take a picture of yourself or your setup. Post it on Instagram, Google+, Twitter, or Facebook, and use the hashtag HowIWatchTNT, and we'll find it.
Blue Apron, also a Twit sponsor.
Yes, they are a Twit sponsor. Not a sponsor of our show this week, but maybe sometime.
Kostadon Kushlev, he's a research associate at the University of Virginia, says your smartphone notifications could be causing a form of faux ADHD. Writing in Quartz, Kushlev says he and a team of researchers studied 221 millennials who happened to be university students. They did not have ADHD. They determined that the notifications from their phones, when they had them turned on, the students were more likely to temporarily display symptoms similar to those with ADHD, such as making careless mistakes, feeling restless, excessive talking, and interrupting others, which sounds like us podcasters, suspiciously like us podcasters. Researchers were careful to say that this did not prove that smartphone use causes ADHD or that turning off your notifications would cure ADHD, just that our increase in cell phone use makes us temporarily more distracted and hyperactive. You might just say, duh, I already knew that, but I thought it warranted a bit of a discussion.
You think it's making you a little scatterbrained, Adam?
I think it likely takes someone who has a propensity to be scatterbrained and makes you more likely to get distracted. Yeah, but again, as Megan was saying, I think that's sort of like we all kind of knew that, right?
Yeah.
I call it the squirrel effect, right? It's like from squirrel. It's like it's one more thing. That alert is the little squirrel in our life that we got to go look at, you know, because it ran by.
We all know how to turn them off, just sometimes we don't.
Yeah. I've been getting myself more in the habit of turning it off. And, that always comes with it's like on one hand, it's good for you because, like at least for me, I can focus on what's in front of me. I can focus on my family. I turn off notifications, set it, on the top of the fridge, out of the way, and then I don't think about it for hours. And that's great because I end up focusing and really just kind of being connected with my family and all that kind of stuff. At the same time, there's like an associated guilt with doing that because so much of our professional lives especially are lived on these devices that at this point we've just kind of over time I think been conditioned to be reachable all the time, and there's kind of an expectation of that to a certain degree. So I never know how I should do this, but I figure whatever, if I don't have it in my pocket, I'm not going to know until the next time I pick it up, and that improves quality of life, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe we have that expectation ourselves. Like even, you and I work together on a regular basis. I have no expectation that you're going to reply to me immediately, even right in the middle of your work day.
Yeah,
I think that you're putting, I think I do that to myself. Like I need to be in touch with everyone. But I mean, when was the last time either one of you heard someone say you didn't reply right away? Something horrible happened.
Very good
point.
Right,
yeah. It doesn't happen. The best thing that came out of reading that article, I think, was how they did the testing, which was having people turn on the group that was not, they were, sort of the control or whatever, turn on your do not disturb is what they were having them do. And I think a lot of us forget about that feature, and I'm starting to use that more. And you can even schedule it, so just schedule it for, the hours when you want your family time, have your device go into do not disturb. And I think you're going to find it's going to be okay. You'll get the message a little bit later and you'll reply to it. And just like you're saying, I don't think there's anybody necessarily on the other line. I think, within a 24-hour window for most business applications is reasonable. And I think most people feel that that's reasonable.
Sure.
It doesn't have to be instantaneous.
Sure.
Yeah. And I will tell myself like, oh, my Apple Watch is good for this because then I don't check my phone, but it is also.
But then are you always checking your watch?
Well, yeah, yes. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and occasionally, like, I'll say occasionally. One time we were eating dinner and our dog got out of the gate and our neighbor texted me, your dog's out. And that was an important text message.
That was a good one to get right away.
Yes,
for sure.
right away. And I wouldn't have gotten it. That's one time in like a year and a couple months that I've had the Apple
But
Watch.
you're happy you had it that one time for sure.
Yes.
I wonder if voice interaction helps curb this at all. Like is it the process of pulling out the phone and unlocking it and looking and trying to find the notification or whatever, or and if we're talking to our devices and we don't have to touch them, but we still get what we need or feel like we need out of them by talking and then hearing the response, I wonder if that helps. Or is that still just part of the same behavior?
You're taken out of the moment, I think, is what this is talking about. It's talking about, like I said, it's something flashes by and you move your focus and now you're after that thing. You're focused and now you've completely taken you out of whatever thing that you were doing. So I don't see voice. That's almost even worse, because you're turning to talk to something or having to interact with something, and not the person that you're sitting there with or something like that. So.
Yeah, it's not a silent communication by any means.
Well, Adam, thank you so much for joining us. You host the Maccast. I just listened to your episode where you interviewed Renee Ritchie. It's excellent. I love listening to it because I'm a fan of both of you, and it was a really interesting conversation. What else where can people follow you?
Yeah, the best place to go is just maccast.com or look for Maccast on iTunes. That's the weekly Apple Mac show that I do. We do tech help and some news commentary and stuff like that every week. If you're more on iOS, you can check out the iOS show at theiOSshow.com. And then also a little more international flair, I do every week the Mac show on the British Tech Network. So that's BritishTechNetwork.com.
Excellent. Adam, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure getting you on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
All right. Have a great long weekend.
Yeah, you too.
All right. So Monday, obviously, here at least in the U.S., it's Memorial Day. So we don't have a show on Monday, but we do have a show on Tuesday. And our awesome guest is the triumphant return of Becky Worley. TNT records live every Monday through Friday, except for this Monday, at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, 12 a.m. UTC at twit.tv/live. You can be a part of the show by emailing us at tnt@twit.tv. You can leave us a short voicemail at 260-TNT-SHOW. You can find us on Twitter. We're at Tech News Today TV.
You can subscribe to the show at twit.tv/TNT or whatever podcast catcher you use. We are there. And if you want to tweet at me, I am at Megan Morrone.
And I'm at Jason Howell. Thanks to our technical director, Kara Cole, and all the folks who help us produce this show every single day. And thanks to you for talking tech with us. We'll see you on Tuesday. Bye, everyone.